just 3 sleeps to go. Croke Park awaits. Could this be the year? 75 years waiting. Now is the time. Midwest Radio Sport, in association with McGrath Waste Management and Mayo GAA, present Up for the Match. We now go live to the TF Royal Theatre, Castlebar, to join our green and red team. Are you ready? Please welcome, from the Midwest Radio Sports Department, Stephen Grealis and Rowan Kelly.
Oh, wow. There's a bit of Mayo fever in the room, is there? Lads, we're in an All-Ireland final. We can do a little bit better than that. Come on. Oh my, the excitement is really, really building. So it is 3 days away, less than 3 days. By this time Sunday, we might have a bit of silverware for ourselves. Cannot wait for it. And thank you so much for coming along. You're welcome here to the TF Royal, and indeed to our listeners who are tuned into us on 97.1 here in association with McGrath Waste. It is time for our Up for the Match Supporters Experience right here in the TF Royal. We have so much coming up. We've got some excellent panels, and I know we've got lots of different people, lots of different guests. Is there anyone in the room tonight from Westport?
Anyone in the room from Crossmolina?
Who's travelled up from Belmullet?
How about Castlebar?
And what about good old Ballahadreen?
And anyone here from Ballina? That's the great win they had last week, wasn't it?
The county champions are out in force. But anyways, enough about that. Time to get down to some serious business. I've got 3 panels for you tonight, and we also have a very special guest. Legendary Tyrone manager Mickey Hart is going to be joining us a little bit later on tonight as well. I think we're friends with him. He knows a thing or two about beating Kerry. Anyways, before we get into all of that, I think, Rowan, we're going to have a little bit of music.
Well, there's no better way to start off than music, is there? Our first act tonight, he is one of our most popular country music artists over the past number of years. He is a proud Ballina man. He is a proud Mayo man. Singing his song, Mayo Will Always Be Home. Please welcome Jerry Guthrie.
Hello, Castlebar. Will you help us along with this one? From the pen of one of our own, the great Jerry Carney, this is Mayo Will Always Be Home. We want you to hear you singing at the top of your voices for all of this. The barman was calling, time gentlemen please. At a dark corner table, he seemed ill at ease. His face told the story, his eyes would betray. He said, friend, are you going my way? An old faded picture he kept in his coat came with a letter that his mother wrote. Taken at Easter 1963, he said, everyone's there except me. Are you right? Sing! Mayo will always, no matter wherever I roam. And though we're divided by land and by sea, Mayo will always be home to me. Born on the island, raised on the shore, he talked of the sun, the cloud on Slievemore. Barely a man when he left behind someone who crosses his mind. He said they're all gone now, there's no one at home. Mother saw 90 and died all alone. The time wasn't in it to bid her goodbye. How it hurt to see this old man cry. Here we go, sing! Mayo will always be, sing up, no matter. Lovely! Although we're divided by land and by sea, Mayo will always be home. started in Mayo, this old man and me. We stopped by the old home one last time to see the house and the garden, the open half door, and he said, as we stood on the shore, Mayo will always be home, no matter wherever. Lovely. Although we're divided by land and by sea, Mayo. All right, help me out. Sing. Come on, sing. Mayo will. Lovely. No matter I roam, although we're divided by land and by sea, Mayo will always be home to me. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a great weekend, Dublin, when you get up there.
Super stuff. Super stuff. Jerry Guthrie, thank you very much. I know that Mayo headband hangs from the end of the guitar, no matter what the occasion, not just especially for tonight. And our first panel have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please put a massive round of applause together for TJ Kilcannon, Dermot Flanagan, and James Nallen. Again, three men that all donned the Mayo jersey for well over a decade, and all in good, excited and buoyant form for the big game on Sunday. TJ, we'll start with yourself. Thanks very much for joining us. So far this year, 2026, what have you made of it?
Yeah, overall, I think the standard of football has been brilliant. You know, the new rules, this is their first full year they've been with the changes. The games have been so exciting. And obviously, from our own point of view, Mayo, it didn't start off in brilliant format, losing the Connacht semi-final to Roscommon, but since then the team has been transformed, and the longer the campaign has gone on, the better they've got, and I think we deserve to be in the final on Sunday, and please God things will go our way.
Yeah, please God they will. I know it was a very quiet office in Ballyhonus on that Monday after we lost to Roscommon, but anyways, we're here now. Dermot, thanks very much for joining us yourself. You've had well, such ties to the Mayo team, and not least Ballahadreen as well. A Ballahadreen manager once again. Do you think Andy could be the man?
Yeah, great connections. My father, Ballahadreen, as we call it correctly, 50-51.
I won't make that mistake again.
57, my father managed the junior team to the All-Ireland. Mickey Loftus was captain, I think. The 60s, John Morley, into the 70s, and then Frank Burns. Then the 80s, myself, Noel Durkin, John O'Mahony comes along, TJ and I, first All-Ireland in 38 years, and then moving forward. And then the Andy Moran era. I mean, what a player. Took over from James, I think, as the leading player in terms of caps. But they had the backdoor system, James, so they got a few more games. But amazing connection. Andy's contribution as a player, and every time I met Andy as a footballer, every year he was doing something to improve himself. And I think he's brought that to this team. Looking after these guys, if I think of the young guys, that full forward line, two young players, the progress they've made. I saw them playing last year at club level, and the progress they've made. So I see the hand of Andy Moore in minding these guys and bringing them on, as TJ has said, and the slow progress in the right direction. And let that continue for Sunday.
Yeah, please God it does. Super stuff. Moving on to yourself, James, an All-Ireland winner with Crossmolina, so you know what it's like to win on the big day up in Croke Park. But just touching on what Dermot mentioned there too in regards to Andy Moran, because it's an interesting dynamic. It was brought up a nice bit this season that Andy Moran has played with a lot of players in that dressing room, and now he's managing them. You had something somewhat similar back in your own right. You would have played with the likes of Andy back in the latter end of your career, and then you would have moved on as a selector under James Horan.
That's right, yeah. But just to refer back to what Dermot was saying there, 57 junior final, I had an uncle, Father Jim Nallen, who was involved in that group as well. And you mentioned number of caps and that. I think I took the cap from you, actually, Dermot, if I remember at the time.
And Dermot took it from me.
We're well connected.
But the dynamic, I suppose, is very different once you're playing with these guys. You're having the crack. You're all the focus. Your focus as a player is quite different to your focus as a manager. So trying to get that balance. that mentorship, that sense of mentorship for players, it's challenging. Like I suppose I was fortunate. James Horn was the manager, so it all comes back. The buck stops with the manager at the end of the day. So that's the key position. When my involvement as a selector with James at the time was really to navigate him coming back into management, if you want to put it that way. So he'd been in the club scene for a while. It's a step up, or it's a different sense. And I guess it's really important when you have that transition from one group to another, that when you go in as a manager, that you know what the heartbeat of the group is. You know what their expectations are with regard to facilities and preparation.
From your point of view, so touching on expectations, what did you think the expectation perhaps was for this group at the start of 2026? Something tells me it may not have been a trip to the All-Ireland final, but here we are.
Yeah, I suspect, we've heard Andy talking about building a team that's in transition. You still have a number of players that have been there. There's players there that played in 2011 when James Horn was manager, which is a number of managers ago. So it's phenomenal longevity for some players there. I'm thinking of the likes of Rob and the likes of Aidan O'Shea. I've lost the question. Sorry.
You're all right. Actually, I had another one that I had thought out. I think your final championship game at Mayo came in New York in 2009, the same day that Aidan O'Shea made his first championship appearance for Mayo. Your career spanned back to 1996, that All-Ireland series. Now, the connection of one player between yourself and Aidan, who shared a pitch that day, brings to 2026. That's 30 years.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. I suppose when you have linkages of players over different generations, you can link back. I'm not sure, Dermot, when did you start?
82, TJ, I think.
80.
Yeah, so I didn't play with TJ, but I played with Dermot in the mid-90s. It's phenomenal linkage from then all the way up to the present day. Of the current, obviously Andy was playing back in 2011 as well, and he's now himself and the likes of Colin Boyle or Keith Higgins, leading the charge, I suppose, for Mayo. So it's great. Look, it's great. Ultimately, it's a family of Mayo players, if you want to look at it that way.
It's good to see. TJ, I'm going to go back to yourself now, because there's been one word that's been spouted about a lot over the last couple of weeks, and that's hype. But tell us about the hype that was in it. Back in 1989, because we're talking about famines, 5 years since we were in All-Ireland. Back in 89, it had been 38 years.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And just to add to that, we all know when Mayo last won the All-Ireland, but in the next 30 years, from 51 to 81, Mayo won just 3 Connacht titles, and a lot of the people here won't know that because they're obviously, of the younger generation. But that was a poor return overall. And during that period, Mayo had some fantastic footballers. I grew up in the 60s and watching Joe Corcoran, John Marley, Willie McGee, Johnny Kerry, Ray Prendergast, brilliant footballers. There was no Connacht title won in the 70s. And there was some brilliant footballers in the county, like John P. Kane, who won 4 Sigersons with UCD, a few All-Ireland club titles, won minor All-Irelands under 21. Ger Feeney, Anthony Egan was a brilliant footballer, Billy Fitzpatrick. But for some reason, Mayo didn't get over the line. And they were winning minor All-Irelands, and I was lucky enough to win a minor in 1978. They won under 21 All-Irelands vocationals, but we didn't make the breakthrough at senior. We won a Connacht title in 81, and we took a step forward, you could say, first in 12 years. But then we got hammered by Sunday's opposition in an All-Ireland semi-final. So probably 1 step forward and 2 back. And you come on the scene then a year later, and I'd have to credit Liam O'Neill for an awful of the turnaround in Mayo's fortunes in the mid-80s. He brought a professionalism and a determination, maybe in a structure that wasn't there previously. And then John O'Mahony took over from Liam in late 87. We won Connacht in 88, Meath beat us in the semi-final. 89, then I suppose our hopes were high, and we had a sort of up and down championship. We had 2 replays in Connacht. We played Galway to beat them in a replay here, played Roscommon, won the replay. So we had 6 championship games that year, which was, at that time, was as much as you'd get maybe in 3 or 4 years of football, because, again, people may not know there was no backdoor at that time. It was knockout. If you got beaten in June, we'll see you lads in 4 months' time. That's the way things were. Yeah. So, yeah, obviously when we beat Tyrone in 89, there was the county got very excited, and you can understand why. It's a long time, because it is a football-mad county. Always was.
We've learnt that.
Always will be, yeah. So, yeah, there was a certain amount of hype. In fact, we saw a bit of it in 85 after we drew with Dublin. And the replay was not for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden there'd be 400 or 500 people at training. And the training had to be switched at the last minute so that we could, do a proper training session. But answer the question as regards the hype, sure, it's fantastic. They just had to embrace it, and, aren't people entitled to enjoy themselves and get excited?
Yeah, they most certainly are. We've a fairly excited crowd here tonight. And even in my introduction, I completely forgot to mention that we've got tickets to give away, but they're not one bit bothered about that either. It's all the stories and the bit of cracking and camaraderie to it. Dermot, I want to touch again on your father, Sean, because for the younger listeners that may not be aware, Dermot's father, Sean, was the captain of the last Mayo team to win Sam Maguire 75 years ago. In terms of him and his influence on yourself and football, how big was it?
Yeah, he was very lucky. While he was talked about as a captain and leader, the first thing he recognised is he was very lucky to have a great group of players around him. And what he did was convince them that together they were good enough to win an All-Ireland, and that was his gift. He had a strong personality. In modern day, I would compare him to a Roy Keane. He was effectively the player manager. Growing up for me, I think one of my problems when I came into the Mayo scene, we'd moved to Dublin when I was 5 because of his politics, but I was always coming back. Apparently, when he told me at 5 years of age that we were moving to Dublin, I used rather unparliamentary language and told him to F off. But anyway, I used to come back, and Ballahadreen was always home for me, and the four corners of the pitch was my home. And what I learned from him was that you get a group together, you bond like warriors, like people on the pitch of battle. And what he had, a unique gift, they had a formal love of one another, which showed on the football field, and a never say die attitude. And that's what I wish for these warriors on Sunday. And I wish it for them, not just today, but for the next 10 years. And I think we carry that, and I think all of us would shed a tear, but we would share in that, because that's what we want for everybody here and for all of us. And so he was great at that. He was also great at the psychology. So the week of the game, he would be really keen. You know the way the Kerrys, they're great at sort of, sure, the lads aren't going well this week. Half of them are dead and the other ones won't recover by Sunday. This all Kerry stuff. So let's match that Kerry Owl stuff. We'll do our own wee bit, and we're coming in under the radar. Nicely done. That little bit of psychology is always great. So really, from here up, Sean Flanagan would say, the game is won from here up. And I wish the players, Andy knows so much about that. And I think he's given them that sense that in any game, it's a full catastrophe, and things will happen in the game, and you just got to manage it and believe in yourselves. And that's what he would have given to me. And I suppose in my own way, I tried to share that with the players, and I had great players around me to my right and left. I had the privilege of sharing the pitch with these guys. So we had a great time, and we wanted it, and we keep it going.
Certainly. You mentioned it, absolutely. You mentioned from here up being so important. These players on Sunday, we've talked about it, we have to start talking about them now, these younger footballers and what they have. Touch with yourself here, James, too, because, Kobe McDonald, club man of your own, Crossmalina, the Rovers, just the maturity of the likes of him and Dara Byrne. It's very hard, certainly not in my time. I can't remember players of that age, of that ilk, have it between the years as much as they seem to.
Yeah, no question that they have. It's rare, I suppose, that players come straight into in their under-20 year straight into senior championship. But I suppose that's a reflection on their skills first of all, their physical fitness, their athleticism, and and their mental ability to handle pressure or pressure situations. Particularly, look, they're both up front. I would have always thought forwards, there's greater pressure on the forwards than on the defence. And if you look at the score return over a number of the recent games, Dara Byrne, Cody McDonald, Ryan O'Donoghue, those three in particular are really returning. They're putting the scores on the board. But Andy has referenced it. But Andy's very keen to reference Owen McGrail, Sean Moore. There's quite a large group of young players that are. So there's a sense of I suppose a transition with regard to this group and moving on from maybe some of the older players and giving the younger players a chance. And that's natural. That has to happen every now and again, and then you have players that play for a generation. They've really shown that they're up for the challenge, and that's come Sunday. That's what we want. We want our players up for the challenge. Anything can happen after that. I was doing a little an AI check earlier to see who's going to win on Sunday, kind of thing, and. Logically enough, it says, I can't tell you, the game hasn't been played yet.
That gives us a 50-50 chance. So.
But that's the reality, performance on the day. Performance on the day, bring your game, it'll be those individual battles. And then the X factor is the support. And what can we bring, what energy can we bring in the stadium to those players? And I'll tell you for sure, supporters can bring a whole pile of energy at any stage of the game, whether things going well or not going well. So be loud. That's what I'd say. Be loud.
Yeah. I think we'll echo those sentiments. I think Andy will and has been all year long. TJ, you were known for being able to fetch a ball in the middle of the field, and it'd be remiss of me not to mention that, but touch on that too, because that middle third, and it seems when we talk about Kerry's forwards, but Kerry are so strong in that area. What do Mayo have to do to try and compete there and get to a level where they can, potentially hurt Kerry in that section?
Yeah, well, Kerry are strong there. They have a lot of big guys there, 6'2", 3, 4. Really, they have four midfielders across that middle third.
Two wing forwards as well, essentially.
Yeah, Joe O'Connor and Jeremy O'Connor on the wings, and they have O'Shea and O'Brien in the centre. A lot has been made of their goalkeeper and his kick-out success, particularly against the Tyrone game, which I was at, and I was gobsmacked by his performance that day, to be honest. His speed of getting the ball on the tee and getting it delivered was unreal. Tyrone didn't have time to set up again. No, it didn't go as well the last day against Dublin. I wasn't at that game. I'm sure Mayo have looked at why. I think they've got to compete for every ball there. We've got to have Bob Toohey, contesting everything in whatever sector that third that he is. And the same then will apply with whoever is going to pick up the two O'Connors at sort of right half forward and left half forward. So you have to compete. We have to compete on their kick out. Dublin had a very good spell just before and after half time. And it will yield scores, but you've got to get your hands on the ball. I would say they'll be trying to break as much ball and hopefully get in there fast on the break, just be that bit hungrier. It's a key area, actually, is that battle the next day. If we do well there and get break 50-50, I think we have a great chance.
Wonderful stuff. No one's coming up on the stage tonight without giving an official prediction. So we're going to start at the far end of the room before we wrap things up. James, in 30 seconds or so, do you think Sam Maguire's coming west?
What I know is we're going to get a performance out of this group, and I believe if this group perform, we have every chance of victory.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
Dermot, I'm not going to ask you how you'd mark David Clifford, but I am going to ask, do you echo the sentiments of James? Do you think that Mayo have that opportunity, that the ability could match it on the day?
I do. What I'd like them to do is out to Kerry at Kerry's home game. And that's, for me, what they want to do. So, for example, Kerry keep about a huge space around David Clifford, and I want that space being made available to the likes of Kobe, to that full forward line. And if they do that and they play that game, then and then Sean Flanagan would say, all of that has to be done on the basis that your defence is functioning really well. So I want us to be only a couple of points ahead at any time, or even a couple of points back in the game, 50 minutes to go, 20, and then that belief, and you guys out there, that's when it's going to kick in. So that's what I want us to get to and kick in from there.
Getting down and getting into the melting pot per se, because I said I know in finals past we've had ropey starts. Finally, TJ, yourself, you were there that very first day in '89. Nerves, were they a factor? Do you think nerves are going to be a factor for perhaps some of these younger players on Sunday?
I don't think so. No, they'll be fired up, ready to go. And once you get out there, you know, it's hell for leather. Just before I leave the midfield, I forgot to mention the role that Jordan Flynn and Jack Kearney have out there, and maybe Stephen Cohen. You know, I only mentioned Bob Toohey. I forgot to mention the lads. And these guys are super athletes. You know, and they get around the pitch. How do I think it'll go? I think we need a good start. We need to stay in the game. The longer it goes on, and the more we are in it, the better the chance we have. You mentioned some ropey starts. I think there was a bad start in 06, was there, James? You know, we'd say no more about that. But
thanks, CJ.
You know, and there's been poor starts in recent finals as well against Dublin. So you can do without that big time, can't you? Because we need to be in the battle. We need to ask questions, put doubts in their heads. And I think we have better athletes than them. And if it's touch and go with 50 minutes to go, with the crowd behind the team, and with the bench as well to do his job, Tommy Conroy, young McHale, maybe Jermut, Paddy Durkin, Matthew Ruan, you know, I think we have a very strong bench. They can do it.
Certainly do. I was going to go. I have to give you the right to reply for that one.
I was going to say there's lots of, like, we've got a strong panel, and I think Andy and the management team have been using the panel smartly throughout the campaign so far. But like, you just don't know how these games are going to go. Like, some of the play this year has been slow, and I'm not just talking about Mayo, but strategically slow. As in, you get the ball out to somebody, and then you just control the game because you got the ball. You know, and you wouldn't know, like, it might be a smart play to not try and play smart, not try and play exciting football, playing exciting football for 70 minutes. You might decide, you know, we'll just contain it and then wait our opportunity and go for a burst.
Yeah. Sean Flanagan said to his team the night before, he quoted Shakespeare to the team, "There's a tide in the affairs of men. Take your tide, when the tide is up, you take your chance and you don't leave it behind you." And that's what he said to the players. You've got your chance, take it. That's what I wish for the boys on Sunday.
Super stuff. I think that's a lovely note to wrap up our first panel of the night, gentlemen. It's been an absolute privilege. TJ Clegane, Dermot Flanagan and James Allen, thanks very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks, James.
Now we're going to cross over to Rowan Kelly, who's got a couple more guests to speak to.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Stephen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a blast from Midwest Radio Past this evening. These two people beside me here are hoping, the same as everyone else, that Mayo are going to do the business on Sunday. And unfortunately, they have watched on a few times as sports editors when it hasn't happened. But hopefully that's going to change. So, will you please join me in welcoming to the stage our two former sports editors, Michael D. McAndrew and Angelina Nugent. Now, before we start quizzing these two this evening, we have to start off, Michael D., by saying, as you were walking in to the TF this evening, you had an unfortunate incident when it comes to your shirt.
Good man, Rowan. Well, first of all, a blast from the past. You're really making me feel old, but I like that. That's okay. And I was reading as well during the week, because after the Louth game, someone commented online that Michael D was the curse all along. So but yes, I parked down in Dunstores, Rowan, and I said I'd run up the stairs at the back entrance here, and I could hear something, but I took no heed. And I came straight in, round the back, met the great Jerry Glennon straight away, and he ushered me up the back. He said, "Mike Keane, there's a bird after making business on your shirt." And I wouldn't mind but the bird must have had some Supermax. Because there's a little bit of curry sauce. But no harm, we got it done, and it's all for luck. And if Mayo do the job on Sunday, God bless the birds.
Yes, it does mean either Mayo are going to win on Sunday or you've got the lucky lotto numbers. You'll have to tell me afterwards. But anyway, Michael D, I'm going to stick with you and ask the first question. Do you feel, if we move back a couple of months to the games that were covered earlier this year, in the leagues, the Connacht Championship, and now, of course, we're into the All-Ireland, as Mayo's fortunes began to change following on from that Roscommon loss to how they're doing in the All-Ireland right now, do you feel the coverage in the media has changed and there's maybe a bit less negativity around the team when they're portrayed in the papers?
I think, Ronan, it's the most bizarre years in terms of analysis and trying to see where teams are at and who's going to actually win. First of all, in the league campaign, I think there was a breath of fresh air. Yes, we had a couple of, I suppose, calls where we had to reflect ourselves, Donegal and the Kerry defeat. Put the league to one side, went to London, got the job done. Here in McHale Park in Roscommon, that was a tough day for all. Second half in particular, very few people would have envisaged. If you were to tell me that day, Rowan, that Mayo will be preparing for Ireland final, we'll be sitting here in the TF the Thursday night in July, I'd have told you to check your temperature. And I'd have checked it a second time to make sure. But what happened after that Roscommon defeat? We had a break. Andy made a few big changes. But the belief was always there. The talent was always there. I think the big thing this year, what Andy has introduced, what the players have, is to have a good bit of freedom. The 2-pointers is massive. And that'll be crucial again the next day. And I think that's one area we can exploit Kerry. That Kerry sit back quite a bit. And if we can get the 2 points away, we've every chance in this game. So 2 pointers is a big thing. Now, there's still a few hairy moments along the way. The Meath game could have gone either way. But Andy's always made the point as well. Mayo's a Croke Park team. Got to Croke Park, you could see us against Cork, and that second half against Louth, was incredible. And one thing we have this year as well, and we did have in other years, but more so this year, is that we've lots of options, Rowan. The inside forward line, everyone's talking about Kobe and Dara and Ryan and what they can do, but there's so many other options off the bench. You have Tommy, of course, Keane McHale, very impressive last day as well. So look, we have plenty of options. We have plenty of guys that can get the 2-pointers, and I was mentioned earlier there as well, the likes of Jordan Flynn and Jack Carney and co that can do it. So look, we've every chance. What's changed? It's hard to put your finger on it, but I think collectively we just got to Croke Park and things started to go Mayo's way.
Well, we will talk in a moment about tactics, how tactics have changed for Mayo and how you two have seen the tactics of Mayo teams change over the years. But Angelina, would you concur that sort of the media light and the media presentation of Mayo and all the opinions and all the newspapers and so on has changed as fortunes have changed? And perhaps it's not the same negativity that was there in years and final appearances gone by.
And not to contradict your own, I don't know if it's changed entirely. I read a few pieces myself this week that were, pretty, and in fairness to the defending All-Ireland champions, pretty flattering to them. There were some articles written after the Louth game. I don't need to mention some of those. The panellist on later that might mention one of those. He took it up in his RT column very well, I thought. But there's still some negativity around them, and there's that old narrative of, Mayo finals equals disaster, But what the lads were saying there about, I suppose, the support, how that can lend itself, the way Mayo are set up and how that can play into a really good All-Ireland final performance. I think that's all relative. But what Michael D was saying there about, I think sometimes we get fixated on Mayo in finals because we've been to a lot and unfortunately the results haven't gone our way. And I had a realisation coming from Dublin yesterday evening where I was talking to my brother-in-law. He was on the train with me coming down. And we were chatting, and he's a very good Island Aidy man, a good Mayo man. And he was chatting away, and we were saying, what do we do with Paddy and David, and who do you put on them? This was the discussion we were having, And of course, we all have opinions. I'm sure if Andy wants to give me a shout, I'm a proud blow-in to Ballahadreen GA Club, so he can give me a shout if he needs any guidance on picking the team on Sunday. But we were chatting, and I said, do you know what I just thought of there, Eugene? Like it was a complete and utter revelation to the two of us. forward line have been on fire. They probably have the same issue as us. If you put 2 on Kobe, you're leaving Ryan O'Donoghue and Dara Byrne, who have been absolutely phenomenal, giving them a bit of space. Tommy Conroy coming off the bench. He has been the biggest addition and is back to his best. So there's a lot of options there. So I don't know if the media opinion has changed. Do I think that Andy Moran, knowing him a little bit, and that backroom team will give 2 iotas whether it has changed? I don't think they care one bit, because they'll prepare that team the way they'll prepare it. And no matter what I say, Michael D says, what anyone else says in columns or anything else, won't impact on them. The one thing I do want to say, if Michael D, if it's not for Sam, if it's the lucky lotto numbers, Michael D, you might give a few bob to the Kobe at home fund, would you? Because I'm setting that up afterwards. Yeah, yeah.
Well, indeed, maybe he will give a few quid to the Kobe fund. We'll see. But I suppose, Michael D, would you say, as you just pointed out there, Angelina, when it does come to media coverage, so there are some people out there, we won't name who, mightn't paint Mayo in a positive light. It was said after the last game against Louth how many journalists were going to go out and write that either Dublin or Kerry were going to win the All-Ireland, depending who won that semi-final. They thought it was almost a done deal. Has Andy helped keep his men sort of out of the media in terms of reading it and focusing more on what's on the pitch?
He has, 100%, no better man than Andy, and I know he called the press conference, I think it was like the Monday literally after that Louth game, which was very smart. I think Kerry might have had theirs just the weekend gone, I think it was Saturday, so like literally a week later. So that was smart, get it out of the way, focus on the final. But like Mayo have been there before, Andy's been involved in finance himself before as a player. That was the smart thing to do. And look, players themselves, they'll know not to be getting caught up in the hype. They'll know not to be, reading articles or looking online or whatnot. But at the same time, they'll enjoy it. They'll enjoy the hype, and rightly so. And it's great. I've seen a few of them in recent days out around Castlebar, Ballina, and walking out and about, meeting people, greeting people, and they feel relaxed. And that's the way they should be. Embrace it. It's an All-Ireland final. It's great to be there, and let's get the job done.
Well, that about sums it up from the media panel. I hope you're both right on that front, that the players will not be looking at what's in the papers, but maybe they'll look at them afterwards. So give a big round of applause to Michael D. McAndrew and Angelina Nugent. Now, would we like some more music? Well, our next musician is 19 years old. She's from Killala. She's already written and produced several songs, and she no doubt has a bright future in the music industry. So singing her song for this year's All-Ireland, entitled Wherever I Go, Mayo, please welcome Joanne Gallagher.
But I feel it when I'm not around. The way people look out for each other, like neighbors, friends, or like another mother. It's the small things you don't really plan, just someone helping you out when they can. It's just in me, I can't explain, like the wind that stays after the rain. I'll always go back to the place that made me, that raised me to. Out where I'm from in Mayo, it's just in me, wherever I go. 1, 2, 3, Mayo. Just in me, wherever I go. It's kitchen chats that run way too long. Old songs playing on the radio, people laughing over nothing at all, singing green and red of Mayo all night long. And I didn't even notice it but I miss it more that I'm away again. It's just in me, I can't explain, like the wind that stays after the rain. And I know I'll always go back to the place that made me, that raised me to. Out where I'm from in Mayo, it's just in me wherever I go. Ready? Mayo, ayo, ayo. Mayo, ayo, ayo. Mayo, ayo, ayo. It's just in me wherever I go. It's just in me wherever I go. Up Mayo! Thank you.
Fantastic stuff. Once more, Joanne Gallagher. Beautiful stuff. Well, we've got our next panel lined up and ready to go. I tell all fearsome, I'm the only man on the stage without a beard now, so I don't know what to say. Edwin McGrail, former writer with the Mayo News. We've Gary Ruan, former Mayo captain, and Aidan Kilcoyne, former Mayo corner forward. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.
We've had the journalistic side of it in the last few minutes, so we're going to start at this end of things, and we'll start with yourself, Aidan. You've seen a fair bit of club football last year, and obviously been involved with Knockmore in recent times too. Everyone was kind of thinking the last number of years Mayo probably were underachieving to a certain degree, and there was talent in Mayo. Do you think talent has been unearthed in 2026?
Yeah, for sure. I think we knew there was talent there, and did we realise that the young lads were going to take to it as quickly and as well as they did? Personally, probably didn't see it as emphatically as it has been so far, and that's credit to the lads themselves, and credit to Andy and the coaching that they're getting, and the comfort that they feel in that environment. And it's been a breath of fresh air to see them, certainly from a forwards perspective, to see the likes of Kobe, obviously, with Dara, Keane, these guys, even Tommy coming back with that kind of renewed energy as well. It's been really refreshing, and then you're getting improved performances as well from, Sam Callan has been phenomenal for Bellenow over the last few years, and you're really seeing it now at the inter-county stage as well. He's really brought those performances as well, and it's been central to getting to the final, like.
Yeah, sure is. You feel too on Sunday it's going to have to be a collective performance for things to probably get over the line. Gary's travelled further than anyone here today. He's the only man that managed to travel in by plane, so fair play for making the extra yard or two. You were captain of the Mayo side way back in 2004, and that bridged a gap, I think a 7-year gap as it was, but similar enough to this time round. Mayo hadn't flirted with the possibility of a final for quite a while before that. I think there was maybe an odd quarter-final in that spell, really, but other than that, it came from, I won't say nowhere, but it was building up for quite some time. Going back to that year, back in 2004, what was your preparation like going into it?
Well, I think back in 2004, we sort of, as you said, came out of nowhere. We had been playing, I think, Division 3 football, and I suppose there was a young enough group that come together, along with a few older fellas, and I think they gelled well, and there wasn't a lot of expectation. Like this year, there wasn't a lot of expectation on the team, and we seemed to progress and build a cohesion, that worked well. So in the quarter-final, we played Tyrone, and it was one of those games that could have gone either way. And I suppose the next day then we played Fermanagh, and I suppose there was nearly a bit more expectation on us after having beaten Tyrone. So we didn't play as well in the first game, and we went to a replay, and we just eked out a win in the replay. So that took us into the final, but unfortunately we weren't good enough that day against Kerry. But it was similar enough type of profile of this team, like a lot of young fellas that come on board, like Conor Mortimer and even Andy Morden had joined the ranks, and we had Kieran MacDonald, and you had a strong group of good forwards that time as well, but unfortunately it wasn't on the day we couldn't beat Kerry.
Yeah, it was that kind of era too. You go back to 2004, 5 and 6, 3 years in a row. It was Kerry and Croke Park. That was the undoing of Mayo, really. And look, unfortunately, the two finals, we kind of know how they transpired in certain parts of it. But there does seem to be a different feeling about this team. I think we spoke about it, and Aidan alluded to it earlier on. There's a freshness to it. There's a freedomness about it though as well, and everyone is really relaxed moving into it. That's what it seems. Even the atmosphere out here, talking to a couple of people beforehand, the form is really good moving into this, and you feel if it's like that on the streets, it's going to be like that in the dressing room.
Well, I think it is. I think when they were beaten by Roscommon, there was a real, I suppose, downhearted in the county. Thought this was going to be another poor year. But since then, they've regrouped, and I think Andy has learned along the way, along his journey. And I think he has brought in some of the younger players, and they've gelled really well together. And it takes. Andy said it was a 3-year project, but I suppose he could be surprised himself by how quick they have gelled together. And the young fellas, as Aidan said, have no fear of playing at Croke Park. They got great experience the last day playing in front of a full house, which I think will stand to them in the final.
Yeah, sure will. I met a man coming out of Croke Park after the semi-final, and he kind of alluded to that. He said, "If this is year 1, I can't wait for year 3." Yeah. So it could be very, very fruitful. Edwin McGrail, thanks as well for joining us. Funny, that same day against Louth, I think you were one of the first people I spoke to that day. I think I met you in a filling station in Newport as we were making our way up, and for so long you were up in that press area, and you'd have covered Mayo football, going left, right, and centre all across the country. But you were there with your children that day, bringing them along to Croke Park for an All-Ireland semi-final, and for the likes of them to experience a Croke Park at a full house, full capacity for the very first time. There's a new era of fans getting involved now as well.
There is, Stephen, and I actually brought them to the All-Ireland semi-final last year between Kerry and Tyrone, because my feeling was, I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to bring them to a Mayo game in Croke Park, and lo and behold, we went on this absolutely roller coaster of a year. And like Gary was saying, after the Roscommon game, don't think there was too many that predicted it, but I was talking to someone during the week, a season ticket holder, and they couldn't make the Monaghan game after the Roscommon game, but they bought the tickets because they said, if Mayo get to an All-Ireland final, we want to get the tickets. And I was like, how many people in the county had that thought that particular week? And you have to hand it to them. They have their tickets for the All-Ireland, and they've definitely earned it.
Yeah. I hope that same person made a trip to the bookmakers too back then, because that would have been the time to do it themselves, and Michael D might have a great weekend yet. Going back to yourself too, Aidan, you came on in that 2006 final, but the game effectively was done as a contest at that late stage. Like, hopefully, when I say hopefully, I don't envision that happening on Sunday. Maybe that's rose-tinted glasses, maybe it's not. But looking at it as a whole, where can Mayo get at Kerry? Because on paper, they have great forwards, they have wonderful midfield, but it does look like their full backline is perhaps their weakest link of the team.
Yeah, and obviously it pairs with one of our strongest line, being the full forward line. I think for me, there's a couple of key areas. I think Mayo need to be brave on the ball, continue to play their game, but we also need to be patient when Kerry have the ball. We need to be defensively solid. We can't kind of break lines and allow them to create overlaps and get the runners on the ball to free up the likes of the Cliffords on the loop and things like that. We just need to be a bit smarter in terms of the defensive structure. We need to stay in the game for as long as we possibly can, and then get to 55, 60 minutes, and then the Mayo roar will kick up, and the pressure will flip, and the pressure will turn on to Kerry because they are overwhelming favourites, and that's a different place for them to be in. And I think that's the hope for Mayo on Sunday, is that we can do that. We can continue to express ourselves when we have the ball, but be really smart and controlled when we don't have it, and keep Kerry at arm's length. And key to that will be both kickouts. Obviously, with these new rules, our own kickout and the Kerry kickout are two areas that are going to be pivotal. And if we can, we will need to kind of get parity around the middle, 50-50, I think, or even more than that if we can at all. And I think a kick-out plan is probably something that Andy and the lads will have been working on over the past 2 weeks.
You'd imagine so, like, particularly in this piggery zone, as Kieran McGeaney likes to refer to it as. Looking at it from another point of view, Gary, I mean, there's the small matter of a couple of decent Kerry forwards. I didn't ask Dermot Flanagan because I was going holding it for you. You're given the task of marking David Clifford on Sunday. How on earth do you go about it?
Well, I think it starts out the field. The pressure has to come on. I think it has to start in our full forward line and make the Kerry backs work hard to get out of the ball for starters. And then I think we have to man Mark Pawdy. Look at all the possessions he had against Dublin. I think he had 70 possessions. Same against Donegal last year in the All-Ireland. So he has to be man-marked because he is the precision passer into David usually, So if we can nullify him, and I think one of the ways you nullify him is whoever, whether it's Sam Callanan or Donica or Dave McBreen, they have to, when Mayo are playing, they have to attack, you know, and try and force Paddy onto the back foot. And I think just inside on David, then look at, he's an exceptional footballer, so he is going to get a couple of scores in a game, you know, so you just have to try and tie him down as much as you can. But I think Paddy is the man.
Yeah, it's interesting too. The Kerry team was named tonight. For those that don't know, he's been named a corner forward in a 13 with Sean O'Shea playing out in the half forward line. That could all well change before Sunday. I will have an interesting caveat, and I read it during the week. I don't know exactly who said it, but it's one for you, Ed. It's going to be Jack O'Connor's 9th All-Ireland final. In the 8 previous All-Ireland finals, he's never made a late change before throwing. Is that a case of, you know what we're doing, beat us?
Yeah, I think it's a nod to the respect of the occasion that if someone is named to start in an All-Ireland final, I wouldn't always hand it to Jack O'Connor, but on that front, I think it shows respect for the occasion, that it's a big moment for someone to be named to start in an All-Ireland final for their family, for their club, and to make a change later on. It's obviously something he doesn't think should happen, but it's interesting. Paddy is named at 13, is it?
Yeah.
And David at 14, so they're trying to avoid the Kerry jinx there, I think, with that move, with no Kerry team have won an All-Ireland with the captain wearing 13, so that probably explains the numbers there as much as anything, I think.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's such little caveats and little things. Paul Ganey has been named on the bench after missing out the last year round. Looking at their bench, like you're looking at him, Killian Spillane just about got into the 26th last day out because of Paul Ganey getting that late injury. Like, people talk about Kerry's depth, but Mayo have never had such depth. I mean, we talk about forwards and you coming on an All-Ireland final as a forward. The amount of attacking threat and attacking flair that Mayo have on that bench, you know, in the last number of games. Paul Towie has started after not being named, but if it's a situation he doesn't start on Sunday, you could be looking at him, Tommy Conroy, Keane McHale. I mean, the depth in terms of a squad, has it ever been this great?
Probably up top, probably not, to be totally honest. You know, I think you've named it. There'll be 6 obviously starting forwards. The 3 guys inside are you know, making all the headlines, and you know, Jordan Flynn has been exceptional the last couple of days as well. And you know, Tommy Conroy is having he's thrown back the years to 2021 when he was, you know, probably one of the top forwards in the game. And you add, you know, the freshness Keane McHale is bringing, as well as kind of some of the old guard that we haven't seen as much of, but give a nod to Diarmuid O'Connor, who, you know, personally for me, don't think we'd be here only for him because he turned the game against Meath, and I thought he was outstanding. And then you know, you have Aidan O'Shea and some of the other guys, Killian O'Connor, these fellas. Like, there is a huge depth of talent when it comes to attacking players, for sure. It's just obviously the key is to make sure we get enough ball into them.
Well, hopefully it comes the way, and hopefully they have that opportunity to make that impact there as well. I just want to touch on something briefly before we finish. I know you're stuck down in Achill these days, Ed, but you're a proud Brafey man as well. And well, 2 Brafey men, obviously. Aidan O'Shea made a century of championship appearances earlier this year, the first outfield player to ever do it. His influence, one, not just on the team that he's had, but on the dressing room in these last couple of games where he may not have been playing. How crucial do you think that is? And number 2, Jack Livingston, you know, making his bow up in Monaghan, man of the match performance, the impact he's had as well.
Yeah, firstly, I suppose from Aidan, you saw him in the Cork game, you know, in the huddle, and look at his influence and his leadership will be very strong there, and he's been there, and he's look at for a lot of fellas playing their first final, the guys who have been there, not just in 21, but particularly in 17 and 16, in front of a full Croke Park, their experience will be invaluable, and Aidan will certainly add to that. And yeah, Jack has had, it's a roller coaster kind of development. Like in 2024, he was sub-keeper for Brafey. He went away to America for the summer, and John Vahey came along and took his jersey and played so well that when Jack came back from America, John kept him out. And John was brought into the Mayo squad by Kevin McStay in 2025. And while he was gone, Jack took the Brafey jersey back and held on to it. And lo and behold, musical chairs, Jack is the goalkeeper. And I found an extract from 2013, the All-Ireland. Jack was 11 in Brafey School at the time, and they did a vox pop in the local papers. And he said his favourite player was Rob Henley because he's from Brafey and he's a goalie. And you're just thinking forward 13 years, and he's competing with him, and he takes the jersey from him then after the Roscommon game, and has done, like, it was such a big ask, his championship debut up in Monaghan, and he had such a sensational game, 6-7 one-on-one saves, and he looks just so calm and composed in there. And the Mayo kick-out will be under pressure, and it's never just because of the goalkeeper. It's, very much around the middle eight and the full back line making themselves available. But that's going to be a focal point the next day. But we've seen in how Jack has played that he will just take it nice and steady. He will slow things down if they need to be slowed down. And to think it's his first year, and he didn't play minor or under 20. So I think Andy Moran has found someone who will be a Mayo goalkeeper for a long time to come.
Yeah, certainly has. It's funny. I think we actually have to go back to 2004 for a time where we didn't have Robert Henley or David Clark starting at All-Ireland final and goal for Mayo. So it's a big shift. It's 22 years. Again, we're tight on time, but gentlemen, I said we're not going anywhere without predictions. We're going to start with the man in the middle, Gary. Do you think Mayo have got it between the ears, shall we say, to win this game on Sunday?
Definitely, I think they have to go on the front foot against Kerry in the first, on the first 10 minutes. We cannot take a step back. We cannot play too defensive. We have to play our normal game. What these young fellas, they play off the cuff. So I think Andy has let them do that, and I think that's what Kerry might fear. They don't know what type of Mayo game they'll be facing. Will it be a kicking game or a running game? And it has showed in the last couple of games we're good at the kicking game as much as the running game. I think also if we are to win, we have to, as I say, push up on Paddy, force them back the field and try and get our half-back, Sam Callanan, Dave McBreen, if he's there, to get a couple of scores as well, like what Gavin White destroyed on a goal last year coming from wing back. No one expected it, so I think that could be our winning line.
Well, please God, it is the case. Aidan, yourself, very briefly, do you think we'll get over the line, or do you hope we will?
No, I think we will. I think we
Give that
will.
a cheer. Come on.
Yeah, I think like a couple of players are going to have games of their lives, but I think it's in them, and the form trajectory that the team is on, it leaves huge confidence, and yeah, I have full faith that we can put in a performance, and with a small bit of luck, yeah, we'll finally get the rub of the green.
Super stuff. The voice of reason over the side, Edwin. Finally, the journalistic head on you. Will Mayo do it, or do things have to go perfectly on the day?
I don't think they have to go perfectly. A lot has to go right for you to win an All-Ireland final. I think reading some of the national papers this week, I wonder is there any point going up, but I think we'll go up for a look anyway. Certainly reading the Irish Times, Darragh O'Shea and Kieran Murphy were very clear that a respectable defeat would be a good thing for Mayo, but which is mad when you think about the margin of victory in the semi-final, to be so written off for the final. But I think if Mayo, what I liked about Mayo and Croke Park in the last two games is the energy levels and the athleticism. I think this is a team that's made for Croke Park. And I think that's one area where we could have an edge on Kerry, is that energy. And if Mayo aren't timid, if they go after it and go for it, I think it's there for them. And please God.
You'd nearly be ready to go out and play it right now. Gentlemen, Edwin McGrail, Gary Ruan, Aidan Kilcoyne, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Another big round of applause for our next panel. Well, we've been talking to a lot of different guests. I think it might be time we get a little word from the Mayo manager. Now, I can promise you this was pre-recorded, as Michael D alluded to, on the Monday after we defeated Louth. So we're going to have a little look at the chance I got to chat with the Mayo senior football manager, Andy Moran, about the All-Ireland senior final.
Croke Park in Castlebar building up to the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Final for 2026 between Mayo and Kerry, and we're joined by the Mayo Senior Football Manager, Andy Moran. Thanks for speaking with us. Has it sunk in just yet what's going on, that you've gotten to the All-Ireland decider? Because these last 3-4 weeks, they just seem to have kind of gone by like that.
Yeah, no, it has, Stephen. It's, Joe, when we take the job first, and Joe, you set expectations, you set, Joe, what you're looking for, but coming out of Oma, I said it on Sunday, coming out of Oma on after that game against Tyrone, like, we felt we were onto something. Yes, it didn't look that way in the first 20 minutes against Meath, but that reaction against Meath, you know, once that happened, we felt our team was moving in the right direction. So, did we think this after we left here against Roscommon a couple of months ago? Probably not, but it definitely over the last couple of weeks the boys have kind of clicked in, and the progress has been huge.
The year itself, obviously, you had the National League campaign. That seems like an eternity ago. How much emphasis was really put on that in the grander scheme of things?
Oh, huge at the time, to be honest, Stephen. Like, it's the... like, it is a real different season now, and I think people do need to realise that you need to time this a tiny bit differently now. We went from 7 National League games straight into London, 2 weeks later, straight into Roscommon 2 weeks later, and that 5-week break after the Roscommon game has really helped us. It's really kind of allowed us to shape our team in the way we could. Like, you couldn't really do that between league and championship, so we were delighted in that. But the league is huge because, Joe, if we didn't win that first game against Galway, you could have been on a downward spiral, and we were lucky enough to win 5 games out of 7 in the league. So I think moving into this series, it's kind of stood us in good stead.
There's been a serious shift, it seems, on the field in terms of the way Mayo play their football. I mean, the stat was there for all to be seen that he had the most 2-pointers scored in the entire country. Leading into the semi-final the last day, I think it was 25 in total, a couple more chipped in the last day. Last year, Mayo got 3 in the entirety of the championship. I mean, in terms of shifts, that's seismic.
Yeah, it takes time. And then when you move away from, Joe, the good defensive structure Kevin and Stephen had on the team, that takes time then to settle as well, because fellas have to get used to doing different roles. So you can't just switch that on and off. It does take time, and that, going back to that 5 weeks we got, it just allowed us to kind of develop that a tiny bit better over them couple of weeks. And then, Joe, the games start running, the lads get more confidence in it, and, Joe, the 2-pointers are always a bonus. But we always felt we had them fellas on the team, and it was just about giving them the opportunity to go and kick them.
Those five weeks that kind of came at a decent time. The ground was getting that bit harder. It probably allowed you to implement things that you wanted a little bit more. I also spoke to Jack Carney not too long ago, and I mentioned him. He played most of his National League in the half-forward line, but then, you know, once the moment came about against Monaghan, he was pushed off into the middle of the field, and he just seems to have flourished in that role.
Yeah, I thought he had a good National League. If I'm being honest, Stephen, I thought he was very good. I think he's been, Joe, one of our lads that have played in every single game. I think he played in that last Roscommon League game as well. I think he's been brilliant. His leadership around the place has been amazing. Even the last day, one of the first days he didn't get a score, but, Joe, he was involved in an awful lot of stuff that we did well, and he's just a really good player for us around the pitch, but also off the pitch he's a really good player. But but we've a number of them. And then I think his age group, in terms of Jack Coyne, Carney, Hessian, McBride, and the 2 boys that are a bit older, Geordie and Ryan, have really kind of led us over the last maybe 2 or 3 months, you know.
You've spoken about that they've been their core, and it seems to be coming to the fore more and more. I mean, Ryan's performance in the semi-final, that's just exemplified leadership. So it did. A little bit more to it, though, because you've got players that are perhaps on the other end of things, a little bit older, and then you've got this nice young influx. But it looks like competition for places have never been as tough to come by in a Mayo team, because, you know, there's lads there clearly chomping at the bit, like even Fintan Kelly. I know he had an injury, but you know, he was notwithstanding getting stuck into it when he came on the last day in the semi-final.
No, Fenton was very unlucky, and he's the sort of guy that you want in Croke Park. He's got great pace, great energy. But you're right, like over the course of the, you know, and I know it's hard for fans, and it was hard for our fans at times, because you're trying to bring everyone along. You're trying to, I suppose, the lads that are in their 30s, keep them involved, keep them strong, keep them in strong parts of the team. The middle section is always going to be there, and then you're trying to introduce these young fellas. And, you know, we tried to introduce Owen up in Galway, and maybe it was too early for him, and he picked up a bad injury. But since he's come back, he's been excellent. So it's just trying to mould every one of those together, and but that mid group is the key, Stephen.
And you speak about injuries, might be actually decent to touch on that. The last day against Louth, we had Paddy Durkin and Jim O'Connor making their way back into the squad. Were you in the situation last Saturday that you knew you didn't have to perhaps risk them? Oh, absolutely. It was a great position to be in. Paddy, Joe, did squeeze everything out of himself to get right. Jeremy did the same, you know, right up to here till Wednesday. We were still kind of fitness testing them, making sure they were at the right level to be on the bench. But it was great to not have to use them. But when you're on the bench too, like what happened to us, Joe, we lose Dara through that foot injury. He's fine. Keane has to come on, then Owen cramps, so then you have to bring on Fenton. Joe Matty comes on in the middle of the field, and like Connor comes on in his position. So then you're running out of spots. You have only 5 subs to put in there as well. So yeah, it was great not to have to squeeze them in, but also I think the 5 lads that came on justified their place to come on as well. Sure did. So we say outside the obvious example of Darren McHale, who just had a tough time coming back from injury. How is things looking for the final? Yeah, poor old Jeremy Duffy, after his performance against Cork, hurt his shoulder here last Monday evening. So he's the only one really to add to that list.
But he's a determined guy, and I wouldn't rule him out. I wouldn't rule him out just yet either.
He's another of these players that made their Croke Park bow in a Mayo jersey, and there's been a lot of them this year. You spoke about getting back to Croke Park. That performance against Cork was good, but the last day against Louth, there seemed to be another level to it. Do you think you can go up another step or two?
Well, I'm hoping that's the kind of progression line we're in. But again, as I keep saying to you, we don't know until we get there. And you play the likes of, like it was up to yesterday, it was either the likes of Kerry or Dublin. We now know it's Kerry. So until you play the likes of Kerry, you don't fully know are you progressing. But we've definitely progressed over the last couple of weeks. We've definitely improved since we went to Croke Park. So we're just hoping that we keep that level of progression going. The lads keep hungry, keep the energy in the group, and I'm just hoping we progress. Will that be enough? We'll just have to wait and see, but we're definitely going in the right direction.
You talked out yourself in several All-Ireland finals. You were also captain in 2012 in a year that you were injured. So like you've seen it from both sides, from being right on the ground in the thick of it and having to be that little bit step back. How are you, Andy Moran, approaching this one as a manager?
You don't really have time to think about it, Stephen. It's it's not another game. But for the manager, it's just another game, really. If I'm being honest, you have a bit more work to do on the Monday, just after playing Louth. Of course, you do. You've different stuff to organise that go with the carnival of the All Ireland. But in general, it is for the management team just another game. You go and analyse Kerry. You review your performance against Cork. Where can you improve? Or against Louth? Where can you improve? Where can you get better? And then you have to go and analyse Kerry and see can you pick little holes in them. So that's what you have to do. And you just have to move, and you don't get much sleep these nights, but it's a good complaint.
Finally, what's the message to the supporters of County Mayo as we are that close to the big day?
No, it's just thank you. It's like I'm not just jumping on the bandwagon now. I think I don't think you were actually in Monaghan. It was Michael D. But coming off the pitch at half time in Monaghan, like we heard something we hadn't heard in a long time, and in Oma, we seen something we hadn't seen in a long time where we lost and there was no one giving out. It was kind of okay. We can see that there's progress being made here. And then since the Meath game here, it's just been it's been amazing. I go for a walk around the lake. I can't go anymore, actually, to be honest with you, because it's people weren't stopping you. They're stopping you now. It's really kind of taken off over the last couple of weeks. So my message to them is thank you for getting behind the young team, believing in us, and just keep kind of believing in what these young lads are trying to do and what they're trying to achieve, and God knows where that'll take us.
Andy Moran, thank you for speaking to us and wish you all the best in the All-Ireland final.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the Mayo senior football manager, Andy Moran. That chat happened last Monday, less than 48 hours removed from the semi-final victory against Louth. We've got our next panel of experts here, Cora Staunton, Lee Keegan and Kevin McLaughlin. You might know them. I think there's a big Knockmore crew, and there was a big cheer for Kevin when he came on there a minute ago. Touching on that, Cora, actually straight away, it was interesting. Andy had that media event pretty much straight away. Was that just a kind of, okay, we'll do this, we get out of the way, we get into camp, because we basically got 13 days to prepare?
Yeah, I think it's probably just to get all of that kind of work out of the way and then to concentrate on the main event. I know I was in RT on that Sunday night, and I happened to bump into Marty Morrissey, and he'd said he was down in Castlebar on Monday afternoon, all right, for the event. But I think Andy's dead right. Just even talking backstage, we really haven't heard much from the Mayo camp, bar the few interviews that are in local media or national media. It's been very, very quiet, and I think that's a very good thing for the players. And Lee and Kevin will know more, but yeah, put Jack Carney and Jack Coyne out front, and we haven't seen any other players, so it just gives them time to concentrate on the real job, which is obviously on Sunday. Yeah, it sure is, and it's going to be such a battle. Lee's the only man decked out in his green and red. He made that point in the green room. He's got a fine pair. Throw them up there. The nice green shoes for the entire crew. He was telling me about the outfit for Sunday afternoon on television.
It's green as well.
They're all tuned into Midwest Sunday. It's all right. You don't need to worry about that one. But like going back to that semi-final win against Louth, because throughout the season, Lee, there's been decent performances here and there. You look at the Meath game, probably played for half an hour against Cork, probably played maybe for a full half. Against Louth, it did seem like that performance maybe went to 50, 55 minutes. Is that just incrementally increasing at the right time?
I think definitely. I think Andy has learned a lot from the Roscommon game a few months ago. That was a really harsh lesson for him as a manager, but also for that group as well. when you're coming up against elite teams, the Division 1 teams in particular, excuse me, that's the level you have to get to. Now, in saying that, we've had a bit of luck along the way. I think the Mee game, we were kind of found out as well defensively at times. But I think once we got to Croke Park, we really have found a place at home in some regards. I think your younger lads love the open spaces. I think with Andy as well, he allows them to flourish and play with freedom, abandonment, and there's no structure on them. And I love that kind of just go out and express yourself. And I think with each game since the Cork game, we look better, we look more solid defensively, and we look so much more progressive up top as well. So I think the year overall has gone really well. Still, the one worry is how much more can we raise the bar for this game on Sunday? That's the big question mark for this group. I still think there's loads in us. I think Kerry know athletically, we have the pace, we have the forwards now that can do a lot of damage. So I think overall it's been a real positive year for Andy, and I hope it gets a lot better come 5 o'clock Sunday evening.
Yeah, it sure will be incredible. I think, going back to where we were, you mentioned that Roscommon game. You talk about systems, Kevin. I know you were involved with the under-20s this year. We're going to touch on that a little bit later on, but you know, that game against Monaghan, Mayo looked so open at the back. Jack Livingston had an incredible performance in goal, made some stunning saves. Against Tyrone, Mayo were a lot more astute, but Andy made the point afterwards to me that, you know, against Monaghan, they had such a 2-point threat. You kind of had to press out that bit more, leave those gaps in behind. Tyrone, you could probably, you know, sit that bit deeper. What do you do against someone like Kerry? Because they do have it all.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you look at the earlier games, it definitely was a sense of a bit more man-on-man, not really covering for each other as much, and they did get exposed in a few of them games, like, as you said, Meath, Monaghan, but like, I suppose Kerry's just that little bit of different threat. But what you've seen, what they've done against Louth, they were trying to press up a little bit earlier on, which gave them a bit of a platform to set up well at the back. And I suppose, like, with the Cliffords and all that, it's just going to be a little bit more tweaking to do around that. Are they going to sit back a bit more? Are they going to press a bit more? I think, you know, Andy, you can't let them sit back too much. They need to start pressing. They need to put the pressure on Paddy, and we've seen the damage he done the last days. But Louth, you know, they had their threats, but Kerry, you know, they're just going to be another step up again, and we need to raise it for that.
Yeah, they sure are. Look, I think everyone knows what Paddy Clifford can do. Everyone talks about David, but Paddy, he ran the show against Dublin. He ran the show against Donegal in the final last year. I think anyone that watched that game last year against Donegal, you'd say, okay, first player you really need to mark is Paddy Clifford in any team. So, but Dublin really gave him that free rein again, and ultimately was probably the losing of it. If he is named inside at 13 the next day and actually plays in the full forward line, does that change the dynamic?
Yeah, it probably does. I don't see him staying in there. I think Paddy is the type, he's the orchestra, or the conductor of the orchestra, and I think he's the guy that wants to get on the ball and, you know, make things happen for Kerry, and I think he's really vital to that. And I know we spoke afterwards about Paddy on TV, about, like, in-game, you know, it's probably one thing that Ger Brennan probably looks back at, did he need to change it? You know, there was some ridiculous stat that he had 70 possessions during that game, so, you know, if Mayo allow him the freedom of the park, as we've seen in the All-Ireland final last year, they're going to be in trouble. But I don't think Andy's going to be that naive. I suppose the biggest thing is that Kerry have so many threats up top. How many fires can you put out, I suppose, is the biggest thing. But for me, if you're looking at that Kerry team, I know the likes of Shawnee O'Shea is coming back into form. It's the two Cliffords is what makes them tick, and I think Paddy is the main one. So if Andy is going to go after two players in that attack, I think it has to be both Paddy and David, and I do think we have the men there in Donnacha McHugh. I think Sam Callanan will be the man that will pick up Paddy, and I think both of them can do good jobs to quieten them. You know, you're never going to keep them, you know, 100% quiet, but if you can negate their influence in some way, it'll go a long way to Mayo winning the game.
Sure. Well, going back to your own era, Lee. You came up against that great Dublin team so many times, and in a similar way, look, Dublin didn't have a David Clifford, but I think their level across the board was probably so much more even. Like, you know, you were often tasked with marking a Jim McConnelly or a Kieran Kilkenny. You mentioned Sam, and if Sam is the one that tags Paddy Clifford the next day, you were an expert at it, been able to, well, stop a player defensively, but get forward again. So, like Sam Callanan, just if he marks, per se, Paddy the next day, it might limit him to maybe 4 or 5 possessions in the game.
I don't think it's possible anymore with the new game, if I'm being honest. I think we get obsessed with possessions. Yeah. I think it's around how we can negate his influence up top. I think one thing about Paddy in particular is he doesn't like being pressured. And if, say, a Sam or potentially an Enda Hessian does mark him, you put him on the back wheel as well. And all of a sudden then Paddy's thinking, I can't do what I want here anymore. I don't have the time, the space, the control that I've had in the game. So I think that's hugely important. The problem as well, though, we're not factoring Sean O'Shea as well.
Yeah.
So he looked how good he looked against Dublin 2 weeks ago. Looked sharp, fit. And then you have obviously David. Dylan Geeney was quiet last day. So I do agree with Cora. There's so many fires to put out. But Kevin did mention it. It's not going to be a man-marking type role. We're going to have to rely on the likes of Jordan Flynn to cover space, Jack Carney, Bob Toohey. Like the work those guys are going to have to do on Sunday is going to be Trojan. And that for me will be the big game-changing difference for Mayo at the weekend is, okay, you're going to have certain matchups. Dun McHugh definitely will be on David. And then one of those two lads on Paddy. But the rest of the guys are going to have to do a lot of work to cover the guys in space. And Kerry, the thing with Kerry as well, I was chatting to someone earlier about it, is that they've had a lot of injuries throughout the year. They're afraid of a team like Mayo this weekend with pace, athletic ability. They won't want to go full ham this weekend. They're going to try and control this game, take the sting out of it. If Mayo start really well on Sunday, Kerry will get a right fright with the pace and progressive play that we have up top. So I think it's hugely important those first 15, 20 minutes that we go after Kerry early on.
Certainly. Interesting one too. You mentioned Sean O'Shea there, and he's someone that's had his injury problems. One thing that was of note, Paddy Clifford, took 45s for Kerry the last day. Sean O'Shea is as gifted a free taker off the ground. Is that a psychological piece, Kevin, perhaps, that is there fear for taking it because he's had problems with his feet? Does that tell you that perhaps he wasn't at 100% in the All-Ireland semi-final and potentially may not be on Sunday?
There probably is an element to that. Like, Sean has missed a few games. Like, I'm not sure exactly what injury he has, but like there could be something going on him there, quad, hamstring, whatever.
Yeah, it was a foot injury he had. Yeah,
Yeah, but like, Paddy has kicked a good few there. But look, I suppose I still don't think we can stand here or sit here and underestimate Sean O'Shea because he's a top class player, regardless of free taker or not. You know, and as we talked about already, Kerry have some serious forwards threats, and we didn't even talk about the two Guineas either. Yeah. And Paul, I'm assuming is going to be fit for this game, and that's just even a conundrum for them. Are they going to start him, or are they going to keep him reserve? And I suppose that's what Jack O'Connor is going to be weighing up over the next few days, how they're going to line that out.
It's not a bad luxury to have 3 free takers.
Certainly not. Mayo have got something that we perhaps didn't have in the last number of years, probably since your own retirement, we'll say, Kevin, and that a left-footed free taker we'll say that anyways. You had Dara Byrne with the under-20s this year. You were involved with Keith as a selector, and indeed Kobe McDonald, and despite he didn't play championship football, Owen McGrail as well. We've spoken about what Kerry can do, but like those two lads up top, I mean, they're just incredible. We can wax lyrical so much, but it's that freedom they play with. And like I'd be thinking that if Jack O'Connor is in that dressing room and his defensive line, I'm sure his two cornerbacks are going in that with a little bit of fear about what these Mayo players can do, because there's an unknown for them, seeing what Byrne and McDonald can achieve in Croke Park.
Before you start, you're on about left-footed free takers. Just bear in mind, Killian used to take them very far over my side, so I only got to take the ones that were on the sideline. So in case you're wondering.
Are you going to tell everyone that you taught the two lads well at 20s, is it?
Oh yeah, but like they're just... No, I suppose Andy, from the beginning, and Andy as a player, he's always been mad about guys kicking the ball in. Well, obviously, because he's a full forward line player himself. He's always been mad about just kick that ball and having good kickers on the pitch. It's all good and well saying, let's kick the ball, but you need the right people to do it at certain times. Them two guys, as you can see, just are unbelievable. If they get that ball early, they're so dangerous. Like, if Kobe wasn't on the team, we'd be saying Dara Byrne is the top young player in the country. But obviously, Kobe is there as well. And I do think Kerry are going to have a bit of an issue in terms of man-marking roles. Foley is their best man there. But, like, is he going to be on O'Donoghue? Or will he have to go on to Kobe for a pace issue? Yeah. But if he's on Kobe likes to drift out the pitch. Foley isn't too keen on going out there. He likes to be in front of the goal. He likes to be near that last man back. And they've obviously Murphy and Casey, and they've one or two others there. But like, they will have a bit of a conundrum. Probably you could see Murphy been on Dara Byrne, but I still think they're going to have a bit of issue there, just because of that firepower and that danger and our ability to kick the ball through the lines. And if we can get loads of ball into them boys, I nearly don't care what that matchup is. If we can get loads of ball in there and plenty of it, the boys will get scores. Even if Foley managed to keep one of them quiet, I still think we've enough firepower elsewhere to kick those scores.
Okay. Absolutely. It kind of brings me on to another piece, and I had a great laugh when I saw it earlier on. It was an article, I think it was Balls.ie headed up. It spoke about these two flary corner forwards and the veteran Ryan O'Donoghue in between them. I think Ryan's 28 or coming 28 very soon. If that's a veteran, I'm probably in trouble as well. But Cora, that performance from Ryan O'Donoghue in the semi-final, he was referred to by some as the spiritual leader of this Mayo team, and I think that performance encapsulated it. Yeah, it definitely does. I think he's been superb, and probably a lot has been taken off him in terms of media with Kobe and Kobe Mania, and even Dara Byrne to a lesser extent, and Keane McHale and Tommy Conroy. But I think when you watch, I just think his variety in Ryan O'Donoghue's play, you know, he's inside maybe for half an hour, 35 minutes. We've seen it in the last two matches. Paul Towie comes off, he comes out to that central forward position. But what I love about him, and you don't see in too many forwards, is his work rate. His work rate is absolutely phenomenal. He's back having turnovers in his own half-back line. The next thing he's up kicking, you know, 2-pointers. I think, you know, because there's been so much talk about our younger lads coming through, but Ryan and the lads are better to tell you this, has been doing that for a number of years. He's been that leader of the Mayo attack, and I just think he's been phenomenal. He's nailed on, in my opinion, for an All-Star. I think if Mayo win the All-Ireland on Sunday, I think he's Footballer of the Year. I just think he's been brilliant, and again, to Kevin's point, I think Jason Foley has to take him. I think he's that dangerous. I know Kobe can do a lot of really good things, but I think he's just so consistent for Mayo, and I think he really is what makes that Mayo attack you know, really tick. So yeah, I think to Kevin's point, get enough ball into his hands. I love when he changes from 14 to 11. He gets on the ball, he switches the ball inside. So yeah, I think there's lots to come from that attack, and I just love the way Andy just gives them the freedom to go out and play, and they're not in any main structure of attack. They just go out and show what they can do. And again, that probably doesn't help the likes of a Jason Foley, as Kevin mentioned, probably likes to stay at 3. If Ryan does come to 11, which we've seen him do in the second half, more so in the last 2 games, it causes all sorts of trouble. I know we're very pushed for time again. I really wanted to keep the conversation going, but I want to run through some sort of predictions. Some are saying hope, some are saying expectation. Starting with yourself, Kevin, where can this game be won on Sunday?
Where is this game going to be won? I think, Mayo and Kerry, if we're to compare them, Kerry have won so much of kickouts in their last couple of games, where Mayo are a little bit on the reverse. But it just feels like, for this particular game, if Mayo break 50-50 at all, I feel like, based on the way they've been playing, they can go up and kick enough scores. There's also other areas they need to be concerned with. How are they going to nullify the 2 Cliffords? And I suppose, okay, David Clifford, let's give a man marking role to McHugh, and that's fine, he can man mark him, but he will need support. How good are we going to be at giving him that support? It's going to be physically impossible for him to mark him 1-on-1 and keeping it very low scoring. It's just not going to happen. He's going to score, but are we going to get enough help? Are we going to get enough pressure and all that kind of stuff? On the other end, you know, Kerry defensively have been okay at times, but I suppose we kind of need to get a goal probably in this game to win it. But how are we going to get that goal? We need to probably kick a few 2-pointers early on, or at some stage in the game, to bring them out, and that might open up a few more pockets or a few more chance to go in. So those are the few things I think they will need to get right if they're going to go on and win the All-Ireland.
Yeah, certainly.
Are you tipping Mayo, or? Huh? Are you tipping Mayo?
If we tick all the boxes.
He's not nailing his colours to Masley.
No, well, if you're looking, if we tick all these boxes, I think Mayo will win the All-Ireland, but we need to tick all these boxes, okay?
Certainly. I got the chance to speak with a former teammate of yours, and actually a fellow coach of yours now, David Clark, yesterday, and he spoke about that first 10-15 minutes. I think if you discount the replay in 2016, I think Mayo conceded a goal in the opening 10 minutes in, was it 5 of 7 finals? It's a crazy stat. Very briefly, because I know we're tough for time, but how important is our defensive side of things going to be on Sunday, and more importantly, will we win?
It's crucial. I think the midfield battle is nearly as key as anything, because if you can limit Kerry possession-wise, their forwards are negated. We see what Donegal did to them twice this year. That is a template, and obviously the kickouts are huge in that as well. So my heart says Mayo. All logic points to Kerry. When you just look at the bones of it, where they're at, going back to back, the quality of players they have, I agree, Kev, we probably need to tick all those boxes. But my logic still thinks Kerry just about. Sorry.
Big boo, big boo. Cora, please be the voice of reason here. No pressure.
No pressure at all. No, you know, I think you could be here talking for another hour. I don't think, like, this game, you'd hope Mayo are still in it with 55, 60 minutes gone on the clock, 10, 12 minutes to go. And I think the two benches are going to have a huge impact. What Kerry have on the bench is very, very strong. But I think what Mayo have, in the likes of Tommy Conroy, the likes of Keane McHale, Matthew Ruan, we've seen our benches growing stronger. I think we need to stay in the game for as long as we can, put a little bit of doubt in that Kerry mind. And I'm certainly agree with Kevin. I think we need to score early. I think we need to get a goal or two early, put Kerry on the back foot, don't allow them to control the game. And as I said, I think our luck has been in all year. And no matter what game you play, you always need a bit of luck. So I'm with Kevin, Mayo by a point.
No. 2-1 to Mayo in that regard. I think if it's 2 points to 1 on Sunday, we'd take it either way, but I don't think we're looking at something like that. Guys, it's been absolutely wonderful. As you mentioned, Corey, we could be here for the night. Kevin McLaughlin, Lee Keegan, Cora Stone, and thanks so much for joining us. The final panel of the night.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you.
I want to mention too here for a minute or two as well. We've gotten some messages in from different places tonight. We've gotten messages in from Mexico, from the USA. We've had some in from Australia, the United Kingdom. I'm not going to try and read out all of them, but there's a lot here. I actually think we might even have some listeners in Slovenia, so that could be a first. And actually, I got a message after the semi-final victory over Louth from a young man, Dara from Burrashul. And he sent me a little video. He was out taking in the night sky, so I knew he was a little bit far away. He was tuned in to the semi-final on Midwest from Uzbekistan. Now, I think that was a first. Now, I think he's in Croke Park on Sunday, but I think Uzbekistan was a first. And it goes without saying that it's wonderful to have the listenership. And indeed, everyone that has kind of gotten in touch over the last couple of games has said it's been a whirlwind year for myself. I've been stepping into the shoes that were there for Michael D for a long, long time. But the messages that have been coming through for myself and my commentary partner, Martin Carney, they really don't go unnoticed. And I suppose... And I suppose just for myself, it's a massive thank you, and hopefully we'll have another big day, biggest one of all, on Sunday evening. Now, it promised to be a very good one. Now, does anyone fancy a ticket? Anyone at all? Okay, fair enough. I was going to say I might keep them. I don't have them yet. Before we get there, we're going to go for our special guest. We're going to do that first because we've had all the talk about Mayo and Kerry. We've had 8 people say Mayo are going to win, and Lee Keegan. Forget about him now. This man has won 3 All-Ireland senior titles. He dominated the Naughties, and I will point out that he defeated Kerry in not 1 but 2 of those All-Ireland finalists. The only other man in recent times that done anything of a kind was Jim Gavin, so you know we're in some esteemed company. He's been involved in the inter-county scene for well over 2 decades now. He's been manager of Offaly, he's been manager of Derry and Louth in recent times, but he's most well known for his stint in charge of the Tyrone senior footballers, which span the best part of 2 decades. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please give a warm Mayo welcome to the one and only Mickey Hart.
All right, good man, good man.
I had a wonderful chat today with a man walking down the street in Castlebar. He's a big Mayo fan. I'd known him well, and he said, I can't believe it. He said, I didn't realise you're good pundits, but you're getting Mickey Joe Hart to play a song or two as well. I said, you're sadly mistaken, but there'll be no green guitar here. But Mickey, you're very welcome to County Mayo.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us. Yeah, come on, give another round of applause, folks.
Thank you, thank you.
You've been involved with inter-county football for a long, long time, and I suppose we have to touch really. You've been involved with Offaly for the last number of years, but in the last few weeks, you've stepped down from your joint management ticket. First and foremost, how did you find that spell there, moving down to again a different area? You've been involved with Tyrone for so long, but the last 5-6 years have seen you branch out that little bit more. But your spell on Offaly, they're a real football mad county.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and I suppose that's the case. A lot of teams throughout Ireland. Anybody who's from that county, they put their heart and soul into it. And I've always said that all the teams in every division deserve great credit because they give it all they've got, and they have the same desire as people in the most successful counties at the moment. And I wouldn't say that they're weaker counties. I'd call them counties at a different stage of development, because that's what they are. And sometimes it's difficult with the population and the tradition and the history, but everybody can make strides forward. And I think that's what you want to do if you're working with people and they've got this interest to better themselves and to play for their county. They play for their clubs, their families, of course, but the county means a lot to them. So I found that, obviously, I wasn't surprised about that an awfully anyway, because I remember them in the 70s and 80s, the kind of players they had and the team they had. So the problem maybe for me was that there's a strong hurling tradition there as well.
In fairness, both hurling and football, though, they've, after some fallow years, they've both really come to prominence again in these 2020s. They've won All-Ireland titles in hurling and football this decade.
Yeah, that's true. But I suppose you know yourself, you'd always love 4 or 5 of the hurlers who could play good football. I know, and that's just been biased towards the game that I've been more used to. Obviously, the hurlers could use some of the footballers too, I'm sure, but that makes it that you're sort of splitting your potential family of players for it, you know. So that makes it harder too to make the progress you'd like.
And your decision to step down, not an easy one, I take it.
No, I came in to help Declan out 2 years ago. Lovely man, Declan Kelly, and he had enough for himself right now. He said he'd done about 5 years for the 20s, first of all, and then that was his 3rd year with the seniors, and he felt he had enough at this stage. And I felt then that the whole backroom team was kind of drifting as well. We built up a good backroom team for the last 2 years. They were going to be going their different ways. So you need a man on the ground to be up to speed with that. And for the distance I was coming to it, I just didn't feel like I could take on all of that challenge, you know.
It's interesting. You mentioned 2 counties just going through lower periods at different times. Look at Wicklow, for example. You know, I mean, I think a lot of people here might have been in Croke Park 2 weeks ago watching the semi-final between Mayo and Louth. But I mean, to experience that second half for a county like Wicklow, that was one of their great days, picking up that Tailteann Cup, and the lift that's going to give football in I won't say a non-traditional football county, but a county that may not have necessarily had success. It drives them on that bit more.
Well, that's the real reason why the Tailteann Cup has become successful, because it is a Division 3 and 4 All-Ireland. And that's what you have to talk about. That is an All-Ireland. It mightn't be the Sam Maguire, but it's an All-Ireland for those counties. And for them to come from still being playing in Division 4 and to beat teams like, I mean, we had an 8-point lead in them at half-time and gave it up too. Not that we were happy about that or anything, but it shows you what they have in them as well. I mean, I think even in the quarter-final against Antrim, they were 9 down and came back and won it. They were 8 down against us at half-time and they were 12 down against Down. So there's something about them, and maybe it bodes well for maybe Mayo going in as underdogs into this game. That
you know how to play to the crowd.
They were by no means, in anybody's eyes, they weren't the ones who were likely to win that competition, but it didn't stop them. So I think it's that spirit. The spirit grows when people, you know, choose to think, we'll throw off the shackles here, and you know, we're in a bonus place, so let's go after it. And I think that's the way Wicklow played. The way played was complete abandon, and obviously showed that they've great footballers as well, because abandon's not enough. You need quality. So I think maybe that's where Mayo have it as well. A lot of very good young players and a number of good seasoned players. So I think they have a nice mix there at the minute, which gives them every opportunity to be optimistic about their prospects.
Who wouldn't love to see the All-Ireland champions Mayo heading down to Aughrim for the first round of the All-Ireland series next year? That'd be about as novel as it gets. That day in Croke Park, the Wicklow faithful were there en masse, as were the Louth folk, and you went to Louth. That was your first. That was your first trip outside of Tyrone, really, after you moved on from that particular role. And I think, you know, you mentioned about teams building up momentum. You were with Louth when they started that journey up. Did you see just how high they could go?
Yeah, well, we did believe. We said we went there that, you know, they had a bad season before we came, myself and Gavin, and they didn't win any games in Division 3. They were relegated to 4. And I had played with Tyrone against Louth several times, in qualifiers, etc., for a number of years, and always found them difficult to beat, that there was lots of quality footballers there. And so they just needed the belief. I could see when we went there that there were very low morale within the players, and it was a question of making them believe that they're better than that. because I knew looking at them they had more quality than the results had reflected. So it was just a question of building belief into them, making them believe that you're on a ladder here, and what you try to do is climb a rung or two a bit at a time. You don't go from 0 to 100 in one go. You have to build your way up through the gears. So that was the question. That's what we were putting to them. Where are you now in the ranking of teams in Ireland, and where can you aspire to go to? And I think they've outdone themselves in how they've managed to drive on. So it's great to see that they're able to do that.
Don't tell them you said that, because they want to go more. You could tell they got that flavour for it that day. They do believe, and a lot of the national media going into that game were tipping loud to beat Mayo. Did the occasion get to them, perhaps?
There's probably a bit of that, because even though they'd been in 3 Leinster finals and experienced that, it wasn't just the cauldron that the game was in that semi-final. And I do know there'd be young players in that team maybe would have found it difficult. They might have found the occasion getting to them. And then, I suppose, there was almost nearly an expectation on them to do very well with the potential of winning this game. And maybe they found that hard to carry. But still in all, I think they deserve great credit for reaching the semi-final. They took some big scalps to do that. And those players will be better for that, come next season and the ones after it. And it's what they're giving now to the young players in their county. Because it would be renowned Louth as a county. I mean, there used to be 2 bigger soccer teams like Dundalk and Drogheda were sort of the attraction more than Gaelic football. But that's stood right in its head now. Like Dundalk or Drogheda would never take the crowd that came to Croke Park to support them. So I think this is giving the young people in their county now to say, this is something to aspire to. Look at this. Look at what was going on. Look at what it caused in the county. So this was a wash with red and white. So like the green and red
I think it's
now.
the only county this year that might have surpassed the way the support has gone in County Mayo. Louth have really taken to it so well, and their fans have always gotten behind them. I think last year's Leinster final against Meath was another example, almost a sellout in Croke Park. And God, be good to the days, there was only 20,000 in Croke Park for a Leinster final when Dublin were having that bit of monopoly over it.
Yeah.
That was 2021. You finished up in Tyrone the year before after nigh on 2-decade-long stint, and prior to that, of course, you were involved at underage level in Tyrone and was very successful there too. Just on your departure from Tyrone, how difficult was that? Because it had been so close and so engulfed in your life for so long. Was it a big change?
Well, it was. I suppose the thing that I felt most difficult was that it was the COVID year.
Yeah.
And it was an awful year to have to leave the scene, so to speak. And that was the will was there to say time to change. But it was like we talked out against Donegal in the stand, and they being in the local, they changed in the hotel beside it. But it was an awful day, bad weather, and you had this knockout championship, so everything was against us. I felt we were knocking on the door, we were very close. We had a good few campaigns in the year or two before it. So it was a pity that I would have liked to get that other year as a proper football year. It was the COVID year, and that was not a good year for anybody. Like, we couldn't really say that every team got the opportunity to deliver the best of themselves that year. So that was the only sort of regret that I had, that they didn't get another year to try and fulfill what I thought was very close anyway.
We all know what happened the following year. We're not talking about
it. No.
I do want to talk about, though, we had 2 men sat there a couple of moments ago, Lee Keegan and Kevin McLaughlin. They were part of that Mayo team that, well, the rivalry with Dublin, it kind of encapsulated the decade of the 10s. The decade of the noughties, it was Tyrone against Kerry. I mean, the battles that you had on several occasions, whether it be All-Ireland finals in 2005 and 2008, but go back to that game in 2003. Pat Spillane mentioned that famous term, puke football, but that was a breakthrough year for Tyrone, and you guys came with an aggression that Kerry had never seen. Talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what was the rationale? Not even the rationale, but what was the thought process for yourself going back in? I know it's quite some time ago, but to get that championship victory over Kerry, like it was a serious monkey over the back, or off the back rather.
Yeah, well, it was. I think the big thing about it was, I mentioned some of the men inside there, that we had a Tyrone minor team in 1997 that got to the final and got beaten. Then we came back in 98 and won it. So that was good. You had two teams back to back playing at a very high level. And then 3 years later, the minor team that lost won the under-21, and the one that won it, obviously 98, won it in 2001. So that was really building a belief into these younger men that says, you know, football's for winning. It's not for being afraid of anybody. It's for going out and saying, why can we not be the best? And I remember even the late Cormac McAllen, God be good to him, I said to him, you know, if we're good enough at 18 and good enough at 21, why can we not in a few years' time be good enough at senior level? He says, why would we wait a few years? Let's do it now, you know. So that was what those boys were made of. They believed this game's for winning. And then you bringing them in with Peter Canavan, Chris Lawn, Ger Cavlin, Brian Dooher, Connolly Holmes, various other lads who'd been soldiering for a good lot of years at a high level, but not actually making the breakthrough. So it was just a great cocktail, a great mix to have at that time. And that's, again, why they played with that energy. And I suppose it was the beginning, if you like, of needing players to be workers first and foremost. Skill's brilliant, and we all need skill, and we need high-level skill to win things. But it's not sufficient without the work rate. And I think that's why we were able to beat Kerry that day. It wasn't that they didn't believe they could beat us talent-wise, but they didn't expect the ferocity of the collective effort. And that's something that's always going to benefit any team. You have quality, you have players of quality. It's the spirit within, the collective spirit. It rises above anything you nearly think can happen. So anything's possible when the spirit is good and there's a collective spirit as well as an individual spirit.
I'm sure that's something that can manifest itself into perhaps a Mayo dressing room on Sunday. Again, you just love to be a fly on that wall that 10 minutes before going out. You being in that dressing room on several occasions, obviously played Dublin in the 2018 final as well, but 03-05, 2008, what was that message from yourself to your players? Those last few words, those things to stick in their minds before they walk out into the field?
Well, it's essentially what I was saying there is that the number on your back doesn't mean anything. It means you're part of a collective unit. And when you have the ball, you need to see how valuable you can be in creating something. And when you haven't got it, you need to see, where's my next job? How can I get this ball back as fast as possible? That's really what it's about. Everything's about the ball. Who has the ball? And then when you have the ball, how efficient are you with it? And how decisive are you with it? So if you can get your players to believe that, look, the ball is precious, possession's precious, we've got to make sure we take care of it. And I think with the speed that's in that Mayo forward line, I think you need to be creating as many one-on-one chances as possible. And I would suggest too, and I'm sure the players, you have to consider, how does the referee this game?
Mark McNally likes to let it go.
That's a very important. He likes to let it go, and he won't give you a free for running into the crowd, into the nest. He'll be doing this here, get up, get up, get up, even though you've been fouled. So I think he obviously, he's a Pat McEnany prodigy, I think, from a long way back. And that means you don't get frees handy. So you have got to know that. You're not getting frees handy, so don't expect them. And if that's the case, then it won't be as big a damage to your psyche if you do get turned over. But I think the biggest thing of all is don't go into the nest and move the ball swiftly through the hands and create as many one-on-one opportunities as possible. Because I think there's such legs in that forward line that it will be cause trouble.
I was going to ask you, do you give Mayo much of a chance on Sunday? But by the sounds of that, you seem to have high praise in this forward line, as does everyone else. But as you mentioned, it's not about the number. It's a complete collective effort, and it's probably not just 15. It's 20 players that need to turn up on Sunday.
Yeah, that's it. I think you have every right to be confident going into this game. I mean, looking back at the last game, I think they could learn a bit from how they hemmed Louth in and why Louth got hemmed in. Louth weren't decisive coming out of that ball. They were actually allowing themselves to be turned back at the first opportunity. So I think the Mayo defenders have got to say, if Kerry put a high press on us, the first man you come to, you're beating them. And then you need your support player ahead of you, not behind you. When the players are behind you and you keep passing the ball, you make 6 or 7 passes, you're not outside your own 30-yard line. That's not effective. That's not going to do you much good. It's only going to give more confidence to the people that are pressing you. You've got to break the press. Break it early and break it often. If you break the press early, break it often, then you change the complexion of the game. And if you move the ball swiftly then on the counter-attack, and as I say, don't take the ball into a crowd. Take any one-on-one opportunity, take it on. But as soon as you get that one-on-one sorted out and you start to suck other players to you, then there's got to be moving the ball off to the other people who are obviously free. Because if 2 or 3 players come to the man on the ball, there's got to be free men. So playing with the head up, playing with that decisive attitude, playing strong from the back. You've got to meet what they consider a strength with a better strength of your own. So I think that's the suggestion I'd be making to the Mayo.
Someone write it down
team.
fast.
Get out and get out fast and get support out.
Mickey, it's been wonderful, and as I said, I could sit here forever. Before you go, I'm not going to ask you for a song, but I'm going to ask you for a match prediction. You built a very strong case for Mayo. Do you actually see them getting over the line on Sunday? Know where you are now, but
it's like everything else. Nobody can have a crystal ball and say, well, this is definitely going to happen. What I'm saying is I'm looking here and saying, is there a way that Mayo can win this game? Of course there is. There's a way they can win the game. Okay? But they've got to do things. They've got to do things at a high level. They've got to be consistent with it. And they've got to take it across the whole 70 minutes, which is now no added on minutes to 70 minutes. And they've got to perhaps balance the sort of composed play, the controlled play with know when it's the time to be composed and controlled, and know when it's time to cut somebody's so-called throat. So
that's from experience, so it is.
Yeah.
I'm taking that as a Mayo.
That'll do, yeah.
Yeah, we're taking it as a Mayo. Come on. Mickey, it's been an absolute privilege. It's been wonderful to have this chance to be in your company. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, former Tyrone manager and All-Ireland champion, Mickey Hart.
Thank you. Good man. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are we? Are we having a good night so far? Well, we're almost at the end of tonight's show, I'm afraid. But we do have a very special piece of music for you right now. It's a busy week, of course, in the Moran household. Now, apart from football, the other big love is music. And Andy's sister Eunice has been singing since she was 3. And now a member of An Garda Síochána, Eunice still holds music in a very special place close to her heart. So will you join in with her now, all of us here in the room tonight, and everyone tuned in from around the world for a rendition of The Green and Red of Mayo.
Garmargut. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been sitting for a long time. It is All-Ireland final week. Can we get you up off your seats? Let's get everybody standing. Pat Jennings said you can stand in the aisles, you can stand up on the balconies. It is All-Ireland final week, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? Oh, Jesus. It's All-Ireland final week, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to raise the roof in the Royal Theatre in Castlebar? Oh, the green and I can see it still. It's soft and craggy boglands. It's tall, majestic hills where the ocean kisses Ireland and those waves caress its shores. Oh, the feeling it came over me will stay forevermore. That's it. I seen a man with a Kerry jersey. I don't know where he is. But ladies and gentlemen, let's tell him he's in Castlebar in County Mayo. And this is just a warm-up for Sunday evening. From its rolling still waters I can see Croke Patrick's Peak, where one Sunday every summer the pilgrims climb the reek, where St. Patrick in his solitude looks out across New Bay, with the ringing of his bell, call the faithful there to pray. Let's hear it for Michael Holster on guitar. Okay, here we go. Are you ready up there? Oh, the green and I can see it still. It's soft and craggy boglands, its tall, majestic hills, where the ocean kisses Ireland and those waves caress its shores. Oh, the feeling it came over me will stay forevermore. All right, Jordan Kearns, let's hear you singing. Are you ready? Oh, take me to Clare Island, the home of Gronia Whale. Its waters harbour fishes from the herring to the whale. And now I must depart it, and reality is plain. May the time not pass so slowly, for I set sail again. Emer, Neve and Bernie, let's hear you singing. Here we go. Oh, the green and I can see it still. It's soft and craggy boglands, its tall, majestic hills, where the ocean kisses Ireland and those waves caress its shores. Oh, the feeling it came over me will stay forevermore, forevermore. Will stay forevermore. Is there one more in ye? Oh, the green and where the ocean kisses Ireland, those waves caress its shores. Oh, the feeling it came over me will stay forevermore, forevermore. Stay forevermore. Stay forevermore. Stay forevermore. Forevermore. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mayo for Sam. Enjoy the rest of the week. Andy's winning matches.
Oh, brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, the sister of the Mayo football manager, Eunice Moran.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we come towards the end of the show, there are, of course, a lot of people we would like to say thank you to this evening. But first of all, we want to give a big shout out to a certain Eugene Rooney, Mayo legend, Mayo great, loved by all, who was tuned in from Florida tonight. And I'm sure, oh yes, round of applause. And we would all like to wish Eugene well tuned in. Now, there's many, many people to say thank you to for this fantastic night. First of all the crew here at the TF, Pat and Mary, well done. A big shout out as well to our wonderful panellists and musicians throughout the night. A shout out to Brendan, Gary, Tony, all the Sound and Vision crew and all the crew from us here at Midwest Radio. A mention as well to our sponsor for this evening, McGrath Waste Management. Thank you very much. And, of course, all of you, the audience. So, to round out tonight's show on air, in true GAA fashion, we're going to round out with our national anthem. We have a very special man, a 19-year-old from Killala, one of the best singers from the region, who's going to close us out with Our On the Vein. He plays his football with Killala, and he's also representing his area at the All-Ireland FLA in a few weeks' time. So, to see it out this evening with Our On the Vein, it's Oisín O'Donnell.
Sinna fianna fá atá faoi gealaigéireann buin dar slú ar hindir an chuún faoi bhaint feséir sean séir ar sin séir fasta Ní over faoin tír ná faoin trál a nach da heim sa bharna bhfuil le gceannair bhfuil chun bás nó sil le go ní scoréach faoi labhach na biléir so libh chanig Our On the Vein.
A huge round of applause one more time for Oisín. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And that brings to an end the live radio portion of tonight. Small matter of tickets for anyone interested in winning a couple of those. What we're going to do, we're just going to give you about 10 minutes or so just to kind of go. I know a lot of people might want to go to the toilet and things like that. In about 10 minutes' time, we're going to make you wait. In about 10 minutes' time, we're going to have the draw here on stage for those 10 All-Ireland tickets. So we'll see in exactly 10 minutes' time.
it down the blooming heather? Well, you go, lassie, go, and we'll all go together to a wild mountain down, all around the blooming heather. Well, you go, lassie, go. I will build my love bower by yon pure crystal fountain.
1-1. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the draw in 3 minutes. So can you have your ticket number in your hand, and as soon if your number is called out, can you put your hand up, please? And we will try and get to you as quickly as possible. So if you want to get back to your seats, 3 minutes, the draw begins. Thank you. Yeah. Will you look at it? I'll write down all the names.
They're coming up and say, I think 474, you can write the name on the back of it, please. Okay. Or whatever way you want. Or just, yeah, whatever. Yeah, perfect.
So, Claire, what are you giving them tonight? The bar. No, you know what's in the 1, 2. Okay, 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen. Take your seats, please. Thank you.
If my true love she won't come, I will surely find another.
Right, where's Stephen?
Like all around the blue heather. Well, you go, lassie, go, and we'll all go together to the wild mountain day, all around the blue heather. Well, you go, lassie.
All right, Stephen, let's go on.
And we'll all go together to the wild mountain down, all around the blue heather.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get our small matter of these All-Ireland tickets out of the way. I don't think anyone is too bothered by them, but we're joined on the stage by the CEO of Mayo GA, Mr. Rory Conroy, and the Communications Officer of Mayo GA, Paul Kinnan. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us. This is not the first draw of the day. They were live at Porrick earlier on in the late lunchbox. As you've seen, we were very efficiently putting all of the tickets into the lovely tumbler that we have. Matches my hair. Anyways, we're going to pop them through. Rory's going to pick out the numbers, and I said it's going to correlate to your ticket, so we'll read it out nice and clear. And please just get them out and get them ready. And 10 different winners are going to receive our Ireland tickets tonight. And we've also got three prizes of €50 vouchers, with thanks to Port West, of course, proud sponsors of the Mayo football team. So I think without further ado, Rory, if you want to give it one more tumble yourself before we go on doing the latch. Very exciting stuff. Okay. And dig deep. God, it's awful tense. The first number out is 469, 469. Are we up in the balcony with that first one? Think we're up on level 2 for that one. You might make your way down because you're going to have to come all the way up here to collect your ticket. So if you have the number, come all the way down those stairs and get going. I think what we'll do is we'll roll on and we'll go with the next one while we're waiting for the very first one to go.
The second ticket out is 154,154. I see a lady down on this side of things with it. Come on up and come on up. Yeah, come on up here with the ticket. That's part of it. Okay, we're gonna go for another ticket. Big round of applause for this lady coming up. The next ticket coming out of the draw is 1,086, 1086. I think we have another man coming. So Roseanne Tansey from Ballahadreen picked up the first one. Ballahadreen winning, is that a sign? Or Ballahadreen, as Dermot Flanagan told me to correctly say. We'll go for another ticket now. We'll go for the fourth winner of an All-Ireland prize. And the next number out, Rory, is 215. 215. $215. We're looking for 215. Have we any takers for it? Well, come on up. Are we in the balcony again? Come on down. It's like the Price is Right. Come on down. We're going for another one. The fifth ticket out is number 366. 366. Number 366. Yeah, we're still waiting for number 366. Oh, here we go. So we've had winners Karen Maloney, Glenamoy. We've Roseanne Tansey from Ballahadreen, John James Fleming from Claremorris, and Conal Ryan from Tubbercurry. I really hope the Tubbercurry man is going to be shouting for Mayo. We're going back to the drum once again. This is ticket number 6, and the number is 784. 784. Right in front of us. And a very happy young man too. Big Boolabus. Ross Byrne from Castlebar. Well done, Ross. We've got 4 more All-Ireland tickets to give away, so fear not, your number's coming out next. And that number is 655. 655. Yeah, we have a winner for that one. Yeah, we'll go back to the tumbler once again now. This is ticket number 8. And this time we have number 552. 552. I tell you, that's the happiest person yet. That woman needs no microphone. That yes could be heard. They'd have heard it in Croke Park. Mary G. Duffy from Kilshama. She is delighted. Shami, she's going to pull you off the stage. It might be the most popular winner yet. We still have 2 more tickets to go. Can anyone top a reaction like that? We're going low again with the numbers. This time it's 176. 176. Another happy camper. Hula bus more. And the final All-Ireland ticket now. Don't forget, if you don't get it, we still have 3 vouchers for Port West to give away afterwards. But the final ticket, and it is another low one. Would you stop? Number 102. 102. Another one down the front. Patrick Burke from Shrule wins the final of the 10 tickets. And we still have a couple of vouchers to give away with thanks to our friends over at Port West. They're very kind to give us 3 €50 vouchers. 704 for the first voucher. 704. Yeah, we have a winner for that. Another round of applause for this young lady. Wonderful stuff. We set up 2 more Port West vouchers. Rory's going back to the tumbler once again. You dig deep this time. And finally a high one. 1,418. 1418. Way up the top, way up in the balcony. You can make your way down, and we'll get that one to you a little bit later on. But we'll go back to the tumbler once more. So for the final Port West voucher, the final prize of the night. You haven't won it yet. And the final one is another high number, 1,193. 1193. It's like calling the last number of bingo. They're all gone. Have we a winner? 1193. Of course, they're going to go against them. The last voucher, 1193. Get they on the move. Once again, I want to say thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming on. We wish you a safe journey home and a safe trip up to Dublin on Sunday.